All right, Sergeant Mike Rickards.
It's Lieutenant Mike Richards.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Richards, badge number
8225.
8225. Okay, just gonna put this here. Are we gonna talk here then, sir?
Yeah, let's talk here for now. I've been sitting.
Okay.
I like to stand.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Hey, it's my daughter. Let me tell her to call her back.
Fair enough.
Hey, can I call you back? You all okay? Hey, you okay? Yeah. I can't talk right now. All right, bye. She's okay.
Thank you for taking care of your family.
Oh, yeah. What was I going to say?
Did you get brief?
I didn't catch your name, though.
I'm Grant.
Grant?
Yes, sir.
Grant. And last name?
Albright, A-L-B-R-I-G-H-T.
A-L-B-R-I-G-H-T. Okay. All right. You mind if I call you Grant?
That's fine.
You can call me Mike. That's cool.
No problem. Are you familiar with any of the situation earlier today?
No, not a lot. Only because as soon as I came in,
Okay.
I went straight into that 8 o'clock
Gotcha.
meeting.
Gotcha. Right
And,
on.
so, but I do know that when dispatch called me, said that.
Yes.
What I do know is that there was an incident on night shift, and that you wanted to speak to a supervisor regarding that incident. It's stemmed from the hospital over to over to your, I'm assuming your house.
Residence, yeah.
And then officers, you came in contact with officers.
Yeah.
So so I quickly called the officer just to get a little bit of understanding of what took place. And all I know again is that it started at the hospital.
Okay.
And then went over there for a welfare concern, and then I'll let you pick up the story from there.
Oh, so what is welfare concern? What is that?
Well, it depends on. Usually somebody will call us and say, "Hey, I'm concerned about a situation," and then we'll respond to that situation or that residence to find out what's going on. We're usually prompt.
Is there any reason why a hospital would tell an officer to go to somebody's house?
Well, that would be, and again, I don't know the exacts, but I did understand that for whatever reason that you were at the hospital. I'm hoping you can enlighten me, or maybe we can put the puzzle together.
Sure.
Since I don't know the whole story.
Sure.
The hospital was interacting with you for whatever reason.
Okay.
At the hospital,
Okay.
and that you left the hospital, and that whatever took place, interaction between you and the hospital.
Okay.
They called us and said, "Hey, we're concerned about so and so leaving from the hospital, and that the welfare or the concern was for the mom."
Okay.
And again, I'm trying to puzzle it together. I'm hoping you can kind of fit the puzzle for me. But we responded off a phone call basically from the hospital saying that they're concerned that I guess you leaving the hospital, going to your residence, and they were concerned that some harm was going to take place.
And what would indicate that
I don't know.
harm would take place?
I don't know what transpired at the hospital.
Have you ever had any? I mean, do you ever deal with any calls of use of intimidation from hospitals or anything of that nature? Any use of intimidation for maybe trying to get something across?
I don't know an example. No.
Okay, maybe misuse of public officers for maybe getting across something that they may want to get across.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of what we're dealing with here. So, let's see, my father's pretty ill. He has a condition which just constantly has been putting him in the hospital, which I typically treat myself. So I typically treat that. I treat it much differently than the hospital, and it's a lot more effective, and we don't take medicines.
Okay.
Now, he has the option to, and we can.
All right.
But we also choose to do things other way too, because we don't have a lot of options here. We're dealing with a liver transplant, and I'm dealing with trying to see if there's an option to save a liver. Right? It was pretty serious.
Okay.
This is my father we're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
right. How old is he? If you don't
I
mind.
mean, he's 71, so he's a senior.
Yeah.
let's see. Looks like my mom put him in the hospital while I was out this week. On I partake in ceremonies with natives, so I was,
Okay.
you know, I was partaking in a ceremony to pray for my father's healing, things of that nature, right?
Yeah.
Religious things, right?
Yeah, right.
So I came back over here, and he was in the hospital. Obviously, I went right over. You know, went straight to the hospital, middle of the night, inspected him. I had a lot of strange behavior when I was inspecting him. Like the nurses kind of seemed like I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. I was asking a lot of questions because I was trying to figure out, was he how bad was the damage basically for the whole time. And I didn't get a lot of good responses, so they pretty much they immediately called for security due to the fact that I maybe wasn't I was pretty direct with the questions that I was looking for, and it didn't look like they were looking to give the answers, and I wasn't sure why, because I was under the understanding that I was the power of attorney, because before I left I was the medical power of attorney, so I wasn't sure why there was any hard times of getting any information. Later I'll come to find out that that was changed, but I didn't know that at the time,
Okay.
right? So that was a huge problem. Anyhow, after when you're one of you have officers at the, what's your relationship with the hospital?
We may have some officers doing security over there.
Okay.
But I thought they had their own security.
But you had an officer over there as
I
well.
think we have one sitting at the front desk area.
Okay. Well, he came up there, and he's a little smart with me every now and then. I mean, we've had a couple encounters before. He gets a little smart with me, but it's cool. I get a little smart sometimes too, so fair enough, right?
Okay.
But anyways, they were getting on to me about like why I wasn't covering the blanket, and I'm like, telling them like, hey, I'm trying to inspect his body, right? So anyhow, after the security had come, I pretty much started to get a little bit more aggressive with the security and the police officers. So I got to a point where I was like, hey guys, this is a little too much. We just want to go ahead and leave. We want to be dismissed from the hospital. And they told us that they wanted to get the doctor involved and different things like that. And I was like, okay, if you want to hurry up and do that, that's fine. It's going to take a long time. Just go ahead and give us the sign against medical release. We've done this before. Anyways, they wouldn't do that. Come to find out, it's because my mom looks like she had changed the power of attorney when I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't know.
And
So
was your mom with y'all at that time?
no, it's late. I mean, it's 3 in the morning, right? Right.
Right.
So I'm asking guys. So after the doctor kind of like, he tries to be pretty nice, and then after he pretty much tells me that my dad's incompetent, even though my dad is answering the questions, he's saying my dad's incompetent because he didn't remember his meal from yesterday, although he gave him his address, my information, my mom's information. I don't know what their problem is, because they use that in such different ways. But anyway, I said, okay, fine. If they're going to be like this, I'm going to go get my mother, and I'm going to be back. And that's all I said to them. I may have not said it the nicest, but I said, I'm going to be back with my mom, and we're going to dismiss. Why that would be a means to call police to my house, that's a pretty good question. In my opinion, I mean, you may have to look into that, but in my opinion, it just seemed like they didn't want to let my dad be released. They kept trying to kind of act like if somebody may have been coaching him or anything of that nature, but I am the person who oversees his medical, and we work through things together. My dad does not have the same brain capacity as all of us.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when people call, you say people call 911 or people call the police department and they indicate something,
Right.
We get dispatched to whatever that situation may be. So they evidently said something.
But there's no domestic disturbance involved. There was no indication of domestic disturbance.
Right. But whatever they said,
Right.
they dispatched
Right.
a unit to your
Right.
I guess y'all's house.
Well, he
Your
came to the
mom's house.
hospital first because I saw him at the hospital. So he came to the hospital first, and then he went to my house and followed me. Yeah. Your police
followed you?
officer? Yeah.
And who was that? Because
The first initial officer.
I have to.
He came to the hospital. I saw him on my way out, and then he came and followed me to the house. So he didn't immediately come to my house. He first came to the hospital.
Initial officer.
Yes, sir. And I'm trying to get his information as well. I guess I'm gonna have to FOIA. I don't know.
Then followed you?
Yes, followed me to my house with another lady officer, and I was unaware that he was following me. I wasn't aware of this. But there
was aware or not?
Wasn't. So there was no indication of domestic violence. I mean, how could a hospital say that there's a domestic violence if they don't know that there's domestic violence?
All I could do is, I'll have to pull up the call of service.
Sure.
When they call, and it said whatever they said
Sure.
to prompt us to go to your house.
Sure.
So I'm under the impression that until I actually see the type words
Sure.
in the call slip
Sure.
indicating, but I'm under the impression that they were concerned about whatever took place,
Sure.
your behavior, your action,
Sure.
whatever, was going to be taken out on your mother
Well, sure.
to some type of harm.
But there's no physical evidence. That's an opinion. There's no physical evidence that I was going to be committing any harm. There's no physical evidence that I'm harming anybody. There's no physical evidence that I'm violent. All I am is just being very firm and being very direct with what I'm asking for. It's not going with what they say. So it did create a lot of hostility because I wasn't complying.
Okay, but understand where I'm coming from.
Sure.
If I'm an officer and
Okay.
I get information because somebody else
Right.
is calling me, dispatch,
Right.
and dispatch is relaying to me,
Right.
and only what's being said on the other end.
Sure.
We're concerned, so we don't
So it'd be good to like.
we don't know your.
Sure. So, but it'd be good to investigate, right? It'd be good to kind of.
We go over to your house.
Right. But
investigate.
but by investigate, like it means like, hey, look at both. You're gonna investigate my end. You're gonna investigate the other person's end because I don't have any indication of violence, any criminal, any laws broken, any harm. I don't have any indications of that. So you would also want to look at my end too, right? I mean, you're not just looking at one party. You're supposed to be looking at my party too, right?
And I hear what you're saying.
So I'm at my house, right? I'm at my house. The door's open because I'm getting ready to get my mom to hurry up and go to the hospital. And I thought she already knew.
Which door's open?
The front door's open.
Gotcha.
I'm getting ready to get my mom to get over there. Let's go get the POA switched. And I'm under the impression that the power of attorney. Let's go get the power of attorney switch. I'm under the impression that I'm under the impression she is already like, oh, okay, let's do it, let's go. Like, that's usually what I expected because that's usually how my mom was. But she was taking a little longer because of her work. And eventually she was saying like, we were having a little bit of a disagreement. Like, I don't really want him home. And we were talking about it and it was getting pretty loud.
Okay.
But again, the officer comes into the house. He comes into my bathroom and they're telling me that they used an exigent situation, saying that loud voices were enough for an emergency cause to enter the house without consent.
Now, they define that as called exigent circumstances.
Right.
It's easier to remember emergency.
Right.
So you get information,
Right.
harm. I'm just going to use the word harm.
Right.
Harm being done.
Right.
You go there.
Right.
Officer goes there.
Right.
He's responding.
Right.
He sees a door open.
Sure.
Right. He knows that something happened at one location.
With no physical altercation.
Well,
At the previous location.
Right, but other than the police is understanding that harm could be taking place.
Sure, it could be.
Could be.
Sure. Could be anywhere though.
Okay.
Right?
Could be. And I wasn't
Somebody
there.
could perceive the way I'm talking to you that maybe I wanted to do harm for some reason because I'm talking a little bit louder or something. Somebody could perceive that, right? But I haven't made any indications of
Right.
it.
So when they go up to the door,
Right.
go up to the house.
Right.
What time was it?
4 a.m.
Okay. Would it be reasonable
Right?
at 4 o'clock in the morning that generally the front door is closed? Generally people are asleep. Reasonable, normal.
Okay, so let's say it is. Let's say that the person's concerned that the door's open, which is, I don't think that's unreasonable.
The door's open. I mean, because you told me the door was open.
Yeah, but
I'm
I
just saying,
don't see that as being unreasonable that the door's open. But I mean, hey, if you see it that way, okay. I don't. I mean, we leave the doors open quite a bit.
Okay.
So I mean, I've never had any problems with doors open in my house.
To me, I think normally, but anyways.
Well, I mean, we leave windows open, doors open. I mean, that's how
the door is open.
Right.
He's responding off of a call saying that there
Right.
could be harm taking
Okay.
place. All right,
Okay.
and I'm just.
Okay.
An officer gets there, doors open. He hears loud people arguing and
Okay.
screaming.
Okay.
Now is it family violence
Okay.
occurring?
Okay.
Did family violence just occur?
Okay.
Or fixing to occur?
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So under these exigent circumstances is an exception under the Fourth Amendment under the search and seizure laws.
Right.
It's an exception that you can go in.
Sure. Okay.
It gives us.
So I don't
it gives
necessarily.
us the authority or exception.
I think it might be being a little bit misused. I mean, I would understand if there was like a little bit more, but okay, that's fine. Let's say that's fine. Let's say you enter the door. The officer comes in, he immediately pulls on he rips my shirt immediately. I'm stepping back because I don't really know what's going on. I don't even know who he is at first. You know, I mean, he's so close to my face. To me, it's just a strange person popped up in my house.
Gotcha.
And he's ripping on my shirt. So I'm backing up and I'm like, well, what's going on? You know, and first thing I ask him, am I being detained? Am I being detained? I'm rolling an herbal cigarette at the time, which he's thinking is a joint, but he'll later find out that I'm rolling an herbal cigarette. So my hands are occupied, so it's pretty clear that I'm not using my hands for any type of aggression. My hands are occupied rolling a cigarette paper. It backs me into a corner to where I can't move, and so I'm like, hey, can you like get out? He wants to talk to me for a second, but at first I wanted to get uncornered because I'm wondering why he's putting so much intimidation on me. So I'm sliding around him like, hey, can you get out of the way? You know, let me move. You know, if I'm not being detained, let me move. And so I was allowed to move. He wasn't even detaining me at that moment. And I walked back over to my the front of the house. I was trying to continue to roll my herbal cigarette. And I guess because I had asked my mom to let so that we could leave and things like that, whatever reason triggered him to immediately put me into handcuffs. I'm not really sure why. I didn't give any indications of assault. My mom had told him I hadn't assaulted her. This is just two people talking. Next thing you know, I mean, first thing he does, he slams me up against the wall. You know, I get a bruise right here immediately. I'm not sure why he needed to use excessive force. I told him I wasn't resisting arrest from the very beginning. Then, as we go through the door, then I'll be honest. At that point, my temper was a little bit different. I changed a little bit of my temper to, maybe using a lot more nasty language. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm calling him some pretty nasty things at that point because I'm like, I mean, anybody who's gonna be in a lot of distress at that moment, and he's slamming me more, and then he's putting me in the car, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, how many times I'm asking them, what crime are you suspecting me of? I'm asking them over and over again. I've asked them at least, 10 times. No answer. No, we don't need one. We don't need one. We don't need one. So I finally asked for your sergeant because nobody's giving me nobody's talking about it. They're just putting me in a car for 30 minutes to an hour, not telling me what crime they're suspecting me of. Not even telling me why, they didn't tell me even why they entered the house to begin with either. But not telling me, why they're detaining me. Yeah. Okay. And also telling me that they didn't need a crime. I'm really confused on why I'm saying you need to articulate a crime, a suspicion of a crime, if you're going to detain me. No, we don't. I'm wondering who's giving him the training for that. So I called for this sergeant because I'm like, okay, maybe somebody will have some brains here and know what we're talking about. They still have me detained for a long time. The sergeant gets here. I'm pretty hot, so he may not have liked me as much. But I'm in, right? But I am asking him the same, and he's not articulating the crime to me either.
Yeah. I'm only going to jump to conclusions because I wasn't there, right?
Right.
So I'm under the impression that, okay. So I think what I'm going to try answering the question is that why am I being detained? Okay.
Right.
I think that's what you're trying to ask me.
Sure. What crime were you suspecting? That's what I asked.
As hopefully I explained fairly well to you regarding exigent circumstances.
Sure.
Hopefully I explained that.
I mean, to the best of what I understand. I'm not saying I agree with how it was used, but okay.
Right. So now on the I'm gonna use the word temporary detention. Is reasonable suspicion, and it goes back again to has a crime already occurred?
Sure.
And when I say crime, I'm gonna narrow the scope down to possible family violence.
How quick is that going to be though to find out? Think about that. How quick is it going to find out to see if somebody has been hit or not? or if there's even
Well,
violence.
but again, there's on the reasonable suspicion, it's has a crime already occurred?
Sure.
Let's say, i.e., family violence.
Sure.
Has it already occurred? Is it currently occurring?
Okay.
Is it fixing to occur?
Okay.
So the officer's trying to determine within a relatively short period of time.
Well, it should be short, but this was we're talking an hour and a half in the back of the car.
No. In terms of putting his hands on you and detaining you.
Okay.
So on the reasonable suspicion, he can detain you on that part on the reasonable suspicion of, i.e., family violence. Okay.
Okay.
Now, you did say that you were upset.
Right.
I mean, and of course, you were upset with your mom. You said something about taking you off the medical,
Well,
whatever.
They had told me that it was the suspicion was assault. That's what they had told me.
Well, they're talking about family violence, so
But that's what he used.
Whether you pushed her or not, I mean, I don't know all
Sure,
that. He
sure.
don't know. I don't
Nobody-
think he knows that.
Sure.
And whatever else.
But you could figure that out pretty quick just by asking the other person.
Well, once now it's trying to interviewing what's going
Sure.
on. If people are yelling and screaming,
Sure.
upset and whatever else.
Sure.
You're trying to interview somebody. Be trying to interview
Sure.
you.
Sure.
Trying to interview the officer,
Sure.
or not the officer, but the your mother.
Sure.
So you're trying to interview all this stuff, and then if emotions are still running high.
Sure.
So
But if
you're
you're
detaining. But
Sure.
I'm just trying to give you a reason.
I got you.
On the reasonable suspicion on the detainment part, why that's occurring.
I got you, but now-
I'm hoping I can explain the best you can. I wasn't there, so I don't know the exacts.
Now, I would think that if you were going to detain an individual, you would want to find out pretty quickly if the event was even occurring or not. And if you could get that person, if it hasn't, and you find out that person has done nothing wrong, I would want to move him out of that back seat pretty quick, because he's done nothing wrong.
Right. I don't know in terms of you sitting in the back seat how long it took them to get that information.
Quite a while, about over an hour for sure.
I don't know.
That's quite a long time to be investigating, right? Because what happens is they tell me that Methodist, apparently they're called Methodist. Now this has nothing to do with an assault investigation, so I'm not sure why they're doing this while I'm arrested again. But they're calling Methodist and they're getting a trespass on me. I'm not sure why you have to be.
Are you sure that when they were calling Methodist,
Okay.
that they were trying to articulate? I wasn't there, so I'm
Sure.
just between you and I trying to put a puzzle together. Were they trying to articulate what exactly happened? Methodist called
Okay.
dispatch.
Okay.
Dispatch says, hey, this is what's going on. We go over there. Now the officer's on scene. He's trying to do his investigation.
Okay.
Hey, let me call dispatch, or let me call Methodist directly and find out what exactly happened.
Okay.
I want to hear it with my own ears. So maybe that's why he's calling. I don't know.
Well, that
maybe
could
that's
be.
why he's calling.
But
So he's talking, and no telling how long. He's talking to the switchboard, to the whoever was on scene, the nurse, doctor, whatever. I don't know.
That could be, but I would have thought he would have detained me immediately. If this was all the case and he was really looking for the assault and he was really looking for, finding out what Methodist, I would have detained the individual immediately. No questions asked. Would have detained him immediately and said, hey, I need to figure out things. Just put him in the car. Mm-hmm. But he didn't do that, right? He took his time, and then once he saw that I really wasn't necessarily being quite as compliant as where he wanted me to go, then that's when he started to use the detainment and more force into the slamming into the walls and things of that nature. So I'm kind of wondering what's the ego going on. There seems to be some egos really kind of going. It's a really strange thing because, Mr. Salazar here, I expected a lot more from Rigo Salazar. Being in the 100 Club, I expected him to really kind of stand up and kind of control his unit.
I'm just hoping that I, with you and I puzzling things together,
right,
in terms of, kind of the process that took place,
right,
and why things might have taken place and
sure,
whatever. So I'm hoping that between you and I, that I was trying to answer as best I could.
You did. I'm just trying to hope you understand that even though you're answering the best that you could, you have to understand that the whole time I've done nothing wrong, and I'm over here. I'm physically hurt, emotionally hurt, also confused and knowing what's going on. This is happening for an hour and a half to 2 hours just because I'm not being compliant with the hospital and not being compliant with the officers. All in time I'm trying to take care of my father, and I've done nothing illegal.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting how long somebody had, you know, with 5 squad cars coming in the house and things of that nature. It's pretty interesting how much attention, you know, will come to somebody for such an event, right? Who just, you know.
Well, all I can say is that I apologize that the way you and I have met. I've never met you before.
That's fair.
So I've never met you, so I apologize that any type of, I mean, I hate any type of negative experience takes place between
I don't
the
like
public and the police.
That's what I'm saying. I wanted to, you know, it's hard for me to get a good reputation with the police force because, you know, this seems to be happening so much. You know, I tend to see so much power being exerted. And less more about the individuals. You know, it didn't seem like anybody really was actually looking at, like, okay, what is this person doing and why is he being put in this position? If there's no reason, then let's get him out quick. There's no reason to keep him there.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't seem like that was the case.
I hope that again, never met you from Adam, so I don't know. You don't know my reputation. I don't know your reputation. So I hope that that you feel like I've treated you fairly, and vice versa. I feel like that you treated me fairly.
Sure. I
mean, somebody that, and what you dealt with, can see that you're upset.
Right.
I can obviously see that, but
right.
Still, you treated me respectfully in terms of not calling me every name in the book and whatever else. So, but it's
not fun to do that. It's really not fun to call people names. I'm telling you, man. Yeah, it hurts both of the people.
Right. It's. The ball's kind of in your court in terms of how you want to, whatever you want to do next and whatever else. The ball's in your court. I just hope that I tried filling in that puzzle in terms of what possibly happened and why the police did what they did.
Okay.
And then you got to go from there. It looks like hopefully you can get it resolved with your mother in terms of the power of attorney or the medical power. Hopefully you guys can all work that out.
Sure.
I don't know what was done with the hospital, whether you can go up there or not, and whatever else. I don't.
Apparently not.
That's between you and the hospital, and then
this is what
any future occurrences with the police. I mean, of course, I always hope that things are always in a positive light than a negative light. But again, the ball's in your court, man.
This is
you got this. So
sure, I probably need a complaint form too or something. Is that how I file a complaint? That's a FOIA.
This is it. I don't have my glasses
That's
on.
That's the FOIA. That's for the open records. But you have the complaint.
I have to look around for it.
Okay. My thing is that I'm just kind of hoping that mainly out of this, I'm really hoping that one, I kind of want to share this more with other people. Hopefully, we can start getting some people to realize that, and hopefully yourself, that it seems like Methodist is the hospital seems to be a very biased activity. They're using very, very extreme means when people are dealing with their loved ones to make sure that they're staying away. They've kept me away from my father all day. I'm usually supervise everything, and they've also used your forces to support them. And so I would like to ask you, as a lieutenant, if there's any way that you could possibly encourage your staff to just be a little bit more attentive to also the people that are in the hospitals as well. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a very biased, very, very biased sway here.
Yeah, there's always a communication between us and the hospital, and I'm not going to, not on this particular incident, but we're always dealing with mental health.
Sure.
The police and then the hospital.
Sure.
And the hospital feels that on the mental health, this is the procedure and this is the way we do it. And then when we look at what our criminal code of procedure tells us how we can handle stuff, is slightly different than their procedure and then what the legislative laws are set up as. So
maybe
we have this battle. I'm going to use the word battle, but it's a communication to us in the hospital that's not on the same page on the mental health side. So we're talking with them going, hey, and they're going, hey, but yes.
Let me give you an idea of how de-escalation could have been. Police officer could have simply talked to me privately and said, hey man, what happened at the hospital, man? Hey, what's going on with your father? Hey, what put you in this situation? I could have explained it. He could have been like, oh, okay, I get why you're frustrated. Okay, let's work this out. Let's get to the bottom of this. That would have been normal. I didn't see any de-escalation tactics. I don't really see your police officers having any questions on how to defend me or the patients personally. I'm seeing them very swayed as immediately making sure that the hospital is taken care of, and also immediately just going straight to force and immediately amping up the situations very quick. Like I saw no de-escalation, not even from Salazar.
Okay.
I would really like to request that, you know, a de-escalation could possibly improve.
All right.
That's the best thing I can
Yeah,
say.
and that's and de-escalation regarding our agency is, yes, we don't want to go in there.
I could have cooled
first.
down. I could have cooled down pretty quick, man. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
Okay,
de-escalation.
reasonable.
Things are ramped up, and of course we want to de-escalate. And you're making a good point. We always want to de-escalate things down, to bring things down when things are ramped
Man,
up.
we're all just
you know.
people trying to survive. I mean, even you guys. So
Oh, yeah.
I like to respect what you guys do. It's just I just try to treat every person like a person. I don't like people to misuse certain things, and I'm sure you don't want people to misuse your services either in any other ways. So
Right.
hopefully we come to a better understanding, sir.
Yeah. Well, let me give you my card.
All right.
And that way you have. I know you got
No
a
problem.
recording going on, whatever.
Yeah,
else, but,
I'm gonna just
I have a
document.
card. It may be beaten up a little bit.
No
Yeah,
problem.
It is beat up a little bit, but
No problem.
but
Thank you.
at least hopefully I tried putting the puzzle together the best I could.
Yeah.
The ball's back in your court. Whatever you want to do.
Well.
Hopefully that you and I had a good experience.
Yeah.
I had a good experience with you. Never met you before.
Cool.
Didn't know what to expect and
Well,
whatever else.
this is
So
probably
I
as
appreciate
far-
you being respectful.
It's probably as far. I don't like to get too complicated, so we probably won't have. You know, this is probably as far as I could probably go. As far, you know, with how much is going on in my life with my dad's situation.
Yeah, well,
things
I'm sorry
like
for your
that.
dad.
It's okay. I just, you know, just respectfully, hoping that we can make some small changes for the city. Hopefully, we can just keep the reputation up good.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, sleep on it, think about it, whatever you want to
Cool.
do, and if you want to go down a different road with this deal,
I got you.
reach out to me, and
I
then
got
I'll
you.
help point you on that direction on that. Fair enough?
Fair enough, Lieutenant.
All right, man.
Have a nice day.
Nice meeting you.
Enjoy the rest of your
All
day,
right,
sir.
take care, man.
You too.